What is up, boys and girls? Welcome to TV Tutorials. Doc over here. Today's video I'm going to be answering two questions pulled out from a previous question paper for Office Practice N4. Let's go ahead and look at those two questions. There we go. So we are first expected to explain alphabetical arrangement for 4 marks, right? And then also we're going to go ahead and state the 3 rules of the alphabetical system. Right, so let's go ahead and switch to our answer sheet. I already wrote down the information here. I'll just read it out and explain it to you guys. Right, so the first question says explain the alphabetical arrangement. Right, so before we get into it, I just want to explain something to you guys. I want us to try to avoid reciting the textbook. Right now, as much as reciting the textbook might show that you know the textbook, the question still remains: do you understand what you just wrote or what you just recited? You understand? So when you answer your questions during your examination, let's try to avoid reciting the question, reciting the textbook rather. Right, so try to answer the question the way you understand what you just read. Right, so first question, as I said, explain alphabetical arrangement. Right, so alphabetical arrangement is a method of organizing documents, files, or information in a specific order based on the alphabet. It involves sorting items in a sequence according to the letters in the alphabet. There are 2 common variations of alphabetical arrangement. Right now, these 2 common variations are known as the ascending order and the descending order. Right, so the ascending order, in ascending alphabetical arrangement, items are arranged from A to Z or from the beginning of the alphabet to the end. Now, I want us to look at these alphabets that I wrote up here. Right, so we have your A, B, C, D all the way to Z. Now, this is the alphabetical system sequence. This is the alphabetical sequence starting from A all the way to Z. Now, when you arrange a list or your documents or information in ascending order, that means your list will begin with any words that have A or that begins with A, and it will end with any words that begins with Z or Z. You understand? Now, if you do not have this, the first letter on the alphabet or the last letter on the alphabet, it still does not matter, for as long as a word or an alphabet comes before another alphabet, that means it will be first on that list. Right, so for an example, if your list begins with a word that starts with M and ends with a word that starts with U, that means that word with that starts with M will be the first on your list, and then the one that starts with U will be at the bottom of your list. Right, and then the second variation is known as the descending order. Right, so in descending alphabetical arrangement, items are arranged from Z to A or from the end of the alphabet to the beginning. So pretty much this is the exact opposite of the ascending order. So now, instead of your words starting from A to Z, they actually start from Z to A. Right, I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, please let me know in the comment section and I will try to clarify that even further. Now let's move on to the next question, which requires us to discuss the 3 rules of the alphabetical system. Right, so we do have 3 rules in the alphabetical system, and these 3 rules, before we discuss them, we need to understand that they apply in both these variations, right, in the ascending order and the descending order variation. Right, so let's have a look at these rules and then I will explain how they apply in both of them. Right, so the first rule is initial letter rule. Right, so when sorting items alphabetically, the first letter of the word is the primary criterion. For an example, apple comes before banana because A precedes B in the alphabet. Right, so this means that all the words on your list, whenever you arrange them in an ascending order, the first rule simply says that we only look at the first letter of the word, just like apple, as they've given us an example here, and then banana. So that means on our list we have apple and banana, and if we arrange it in ascending order, apple will be first because A comes before B. You understand? So that is how the initial letter rule is applied. We only consider the first letter of the word, and then we arrange the list according to that, right? And then the second rule is secondary letter rule. Now, if the initial letters are the same, you move on to the second letter and so on. For an example, dog comes before donkey because O precedes O and G precedes N in the alphabet, right? So let me try to clarify that. What this simply means that we have dog and donkey on our list. Now, if we look at the first letter, it is a D. Both on letters, it is a D, right? So that means in order for us to determine which word should come first, we need to move on to the second letter, right? On our word, we have O as the second letter, which is actually the same for the second word. So that means we now have to move on to the next letter, so on and so forth, until we are able to determine this is the first letter, this is this is the first word, this is the last word. Now on our two words, dog and donkey, we know that the third letter is actually different. We have G and we have N, and we know that in our alphabet G comes before N, so that means dog will be our first letter, or will be the first name on our list, and donkey will be the last name on our list. Now the example that we've been given here applies in the ascending order. You can still apply the same rule in descending order, right? Just as long as you know that when you are now sorting your list in descending order, you have to start with the last letter in your word, and then end with the first letter in your word. I hope it makes sense. Again, if it doesn't, ask for clarification in the comments and I will do so. Now, the last rule is ignore spaces and punctuation rule. This one can be a little bit confusing. However, I will explain it. I will clarify it. Right. So when alphabetizing, you usually ignore spaces and punctuation marks. For instance, McDonald and McDonald would be treated as McDonald's since the C and D are considered the same for sorting purposes. Right. So let's have a look at these two words right here. McDonald and McDonald, they are both pronounced the same, however they are spelled differently. The first McDonald does not have an A, the second one has an A, right? So when we say ignore spaces and punctuation, we mean instances like this. If you look at your CD on this word and your CD on this word, they would be treated as the same, because remember, we are ignoring any spaces and punctuation because on this word a punctuation has been applied to replace the A, right? Another word that I can give you as an example is Wi-Fi, which is written like this, versus Wi-Fi written with a hyphen, right? So if you have to rearrange your list in ascending order or in descending order, rather, these two words will be classified as equivalent or as the same, because remember, we are ignoring the spaces and the punctuations. So that means you're actually looking at two words that are looking like this. You understand that they are literally they are pronounced the same, however spelled differently because of whether there's a space added or a punctuation. Now this rule says those spaces and punctuation, they should be ignored, right? So remember, all these three rules, they need to be applied whenever you are arranging your list. That is that, Bafetu. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, comments are open. All the links to our socials are right up here. Do check them out. You can communicate with us. If you're watching this video and you still haven't subscribed, click on that subscribe button, click on that bell icon so that you get instant notifications for every time we drop new content. Now, as I always say, Bafetu from myself and my team at TV Tutorials. Adios.